Really tribal or regional.
All right, thank you for staying. And now we have joining us our guest reviewer, Ben Sheman, Director of News, Voice of Nigeria, in the studio to also give us perspectives on some of the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak, as always. Good to see you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. So, yes, of course, as usual, we'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story there, it says, no respite for operators as aviation fuel hits 903 naira. Nigerians shun air travel over high cost of tickets. Lagos Abuja return flight now 200,000. Abuja Kano 160,000. Experts predict higher fares. Airlines cut flights months after National Assembly resolution not yet implemented. So this is the lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper, all about aviation fuel, Jet A1. And the experts are actually predicting that there's going to be higher fares. So we see how this goes and how soon we can actually see an action on this. Then another story above the lead story says, Wike to Atiku, voters, not rumor peddlers, will decide your fate. Then you have the next story, 2023, Buni, Dambazo ask Nigerians to shun religious sentiments. Matawale, Oke's death penalty for kidnappers, bandits, informants. You also find disquiet in Kwankwaso's NNPP as Shekarau decides on exit tomorrow. The pictorial basically shows you the president flagging of the Nigeria End Malaria Council yesterday, a number of dignitaries, and is to be chaired by Aliko Dangote. Now, you also have Jaiz Bank pays 1.3 billion naira dividend to stakeholders. Abductors of Nasarawa Commissioner demand 100 million naira. Malaria burden on Nigeria to reach 2 trillion naira by 2030. That's according to President Muhammadu Buhari. That's that for the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, now let's take a look at the This Day newspaper. The This Day newspaper has a lead story that says, Usman, this is from Usman talking, how Dambazao resisted pressure to topple Jonathan. The first writer, he says, he made a promise to international community he wouldn't. Ex-Army chief proposes drastic reform of entire security sector. We also have another writer there. This declares size of military police inadequate for Nigeria's population. While the fourth writer says, Buni cautions against hate speech, says nation's interest uppermost. Above that, we have a story that says, in new Zamfara law, terrorists, informants, kidnappers face death penalty. And then we also have above the masthead, federal government ASU meeting ends in deadlock. Also on This Day for today, Buhari, eliminating malaria by 2030 will save Nigeria 2 trillion naira. Then the writer there says, Dangote inaugurated as chairman of council to eradicate scourge. We also have a pictorial there that of the launch of, the caption says, inauguration stroke launch of the Nigeria End Malaria Council. And the pictorial, and we have the president, we have the Minister of Health, and then we have the Cardinal John Onaikon and billionaire businessman Dangote, Aliko Dangote. That's the major stories on This Day for today.
All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The lead story there says 2023, disquiet in PDP as Obi meets Wike, Otom, others. Party on self-destructive path, says Rivers governor. Ayu must go. You also find above the masthead, rain to pound Lagos, Ogun, Oshun, Oyo, Ondo, Ekiti, and Edo. Conditions of remaining 27 train attack victims critical, says negotiator. You also find Jais Bank targets 150 billion naira to fund companies. Don't lose hope, IBB tells Nigerians. Insecurity, terrorists, bandits are threats to 2023 poll, says Dambazo. Governors meet today on insecurity. Lagos stakeholders seek total ban on Okada. Federal government, ASU talks deadlocked. These are the stories on the front page of The Nation.
All right, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper has a late story that says, PDP crisis. Atiku, weakest men hold peace talks on Friday. The first rider, a party that wants to win election cannot be involved in infighting. This is from the Rivers governor. Atiku's camp wants meeting to hold in Abuja. Fintry leads delegation, says sources. If I were Atiku, I'll take next flight to Port Harcourt and close this chapter, or Habua. And above the masthead, we have ASU FG meeting deadlocked, lecturer stage walkout. Bandits, IPOB members, threats to 2023 elections. This is coming from Dambazao. Why 7 million diasporans, other Nigerians, are unregistered? INEC. And then we also have the story here. Power generation falls by 503 megawatts. Workers threaten strike. And below the pictorial, in fact, the pictorial there is that of returnees. We have a caption that says, 30 children, 144 Libya returnees arrived in Nigeria. Below that, 4 students celebrating WAS at Lagos Beach drown. Also, murdered Mapoli Queen's corpse found on her birthday. This is coming from her friend. Then we also have the story here. Pharaoh restores demoted officer's salary amidst fraud trial. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper.
All right. So let's get perspectives on these stories now. Thanks again for joining us on Daybreak.
Yeah, thank you. Always a great pleasure.
All right. The lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper is quite a story of interest. The aviation fuel keeps going higher, and the predictions are that it's likely going to go much higher. Now, how worrisome is this?
Very, very worrisome, bearing in mind that, the inflationary train is going up and up and up. And of course, the galloping inflation, hyperinflation. Because look at a flight that ordinarily you go to Lagos and come back with 50,000 naira. It's now costing 200,000. It's worrisome. And you look at the ticket racketing. You also look at the lack of aviation, Jet A5. The refineries are not working to ensure that we get distance. You have to import, and by importing, some other countries where we're going to source it from are also having their own troubles. So if they have troubles up there, who are we down here not to have trouble? So it's a big thing that is so worrying. And again, you remember the incident in Kaduna where some bandits or terrorists tried to also attack not even trying, they did so. Also, they are worrying trends. And some will now say, okay, let's go by road. By road again, you're going to meet some hoodlums, some bandits waiting on the road.
What about the implication of this on businesses?
Of course, it's very, very clear. There are some people who ordinarily by now should be leaving Lagos to this place, should be leaving Port Harcourt to come to Abuja, and some are kind of to go to Kano. Of course, there will be no business transaction. That's for individuals. Now, by the time you're talking of even cargo planes, they're supposed to supply goods. They're supposed to give services. You see that they are not flying. Of course, it's going to tell so much about...
Mr. Sherman, the problem with the aviation sector has been on for a couple of weeks, if not months. The scarcity and the hike in the price of Jet A1 has been on for a while also. And aviation operators have met with the minister. Of course, the minister said that it wasn't something that could be tackled immediately. However, why is it that this thing, it doesn't look like anything concrete is being done? For instance, the aviation operators have said that maybe the government can start by taking away some of the taxes that they pay, that could help. And they have also said that there was also a need to remove the 5% NCAA charge that they charge them at the moment. So why is it that nothing in that line has been done till this time?
I agree with you. A situation where you have scarcity, yet you are taxing some percentages, it doesn't augur well for the industry. And when you say it's been lingering for that long, it is a fact. But again, if you are talking of importation, are there some countries where we can get these things cheap and readily available? Outside that, you look at pilots. I hope they won't turn out to be taxi drivers if, again, there are even fuel for them or to ply the roads. And you can imagine what will happen in terms of the unemployment. Some airlines have already folded up operations. So in terms of servicing.
Also, some airlines have also asked the government to allow them to import the Jet A1 directly. So my question is, why is it that all these options, all suggestions that the operators are bringing to the table, why is it that nothing has been done? Is it that they are not viable suggestions, or what?
They are viable suggestions, but you see, when you talk, it's like war, the economy of the war. Some people will naturally smile to the bank because there is a war. So a situation of this nature where there is scarcity, big scarcity, some people by way of, doing some cutting corners will also be smiling. But again, what does it entail in terms of the aviation industry, international operations, the image-wise, when you're talking of ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, how do they view Nigeria? And most of Nigerians are also officials of this organization. How do we, IATA, International Traveling Association or something like that, we should begin to look at how we can benefit as members of this association. If there are some countries that can supply these things to Nigeria, of course, let's go into it. Outside that, honestly, I think if there's also the need to have these modular refineries that can just be Jet A1 specialists, let's have it. But a situation where...
Well, you do know that getting a refinery is a long-term project. At the moment, the price of the fuel is 903. So what a lot of Nigerians are saying is, what can be done in the immediate?
Truly, the best thing is you then import, like I've said. Look for where you can get this commodity and import. Outside that, before you begin to think of a big refinery, see how long it's taken Dangote's refinery to come on board. So if modular refineries can come in and salvage a bad situation, I don't see anything wrong in that. And also, when you look at, you have University of Ephraim, in terms of petroleum refining, you also have something like that in Kaduna. So what really is happening there that we shouldn't be benefiting from these centers of excellence?
So I want us to look at other stories now and move away from this. On This Day newspaper and also on Daily Trust newspaper, I saw a story about Zamfara law, a new law in Zamfara state where terrorists and informants, kidnappers are going to face death penalty in that state. How far will this go in curbing the issue of insecurity?
There's always an issue here. It's always never easy for a governor to sign death penalty or warrant. Take him, hang him, take him, let him die by firing squad.
Even when the court has convicted the person.
Exactly.
Finds the person guilty.
Yes. Tell me of recent where you have cases of
But
death.
why is this so?
It's so because there are also some political considerations. Some people will say, if I sign this, I lose patronage from voters. If I sign this, some will say their innermost self, yes, their innermost self
by the court
is hindering them from signing this law. The only person who, maybe around 5 years ago, who signed that as a governor was that of Edo State, Adams Oshomole, when a woman, armed robbers, killed a woman, dismembered her, and it showed some. So Adams Oshomole signed that. Now look at the case in Kano State. The governor was saying the moment judgment has been delivered, his bureau was waiting. He was waiting. Judgment has been served, but he's not doing it. So quite a lot of things.
Is that in the case of the Hanifa?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, in that case, some persons have said maybe because the man still has a right to appeal. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, he has a right to appeal, but what about those who indeed have reached Supreme Court and where their judgments are final and in their finality? And so if that is the case, then the governors, where this thing took place, it is their duty to sign that these people should be executed. So when we're talking about Zamfara State, a new law has come, it's not yet time for us to say, oh, great Uhuru. After all, the bandits, the terrorists, to them, death means nothing. It means nothing. It's like they've already signed their own death warrant.
But
the innocent
that could be a
informants,
deterrent for those who are perhaps contemplating joining, the bandits. Don't you think so?
it could be, but we are yet to see the governor who has the courage to do it. I mean, it's one thing to say, I will promise you will do this. Now, the law has given you that power to do it. Now, you also, yes, Stella, you're also talking of a law where many people will go on appeal. An appeal will keep on going on, then that regime goes, another one comes and is looking for some patronage, and before you know it...
What's the best way to go about this? What's the best approach to this? I recall that there is this other person who was sentenced to death by hanging. The person who killed Iniobong in Akwa Ibom State recently, and and all that. So, will the issue of, say, death by hanging, for instance, eliminate the whole issue of having the governor having to put his signature, or the governor still have to sign?
See, it will not eliminate anything. Look at those being executed, those being beheaded in some countries for carrying hard drugs. And you find out that many Nigerians are involved. Yet you see them still ferrying this thing. They still carry it, still traffic this thing to these countries where they will be killed. And so it has never a kind of served as a deterrent.
But it doesn't mean that criminals should just go ahead without consequences.
Exactly. See, you can put them life imprisonment and create some big prisons where indeed they can't escape. And let them farm to feed themselves. Let them farm to also feed the community they are disturbing.
That would be too much of a luxury for them. If you look at the fact that government taxpayers' money will be used,
of course,
to take care of them.
Take care of them.
Now, look at the way it works. Correctional services, they all fall under exclusive legislative list. They are under the federal government. But you now find out that someone has committed a crime somewhere in a local government, in a certain ward. You just carry and throw into federal government facility. And the person is being fed. Look at delays in cases. And the governors, look, if you even have political enemies, just carry them and dump in federal government facilities. And the federal government is busy feeding and feeding and feeding. If you allow the state governors to also begin to feed these people they've brought into prisons or correctional services, at the point some senses will be brought to some people. But as it is now, they lack the political will to sign any death warrant, and it has always never happened. It was during the military era that judgment is delivered today, within a day or two, the person is hanged, the person is either executed by a firing squad. But again, has that changed anything? You look at, it's not as if some developed world. In America, they have these lethal injections they give to some people. They give you and you die gradually. At the point, you also have even euthanasia, where some people, some kind of willful, it's a wish that I should die. Or some people have decided, give me this injection, let me just sign out and go my way. You know.
Unfortunately, today we have a very short time to do this, and so we will have to end it at this point in time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Always a great pleasure.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a short breather now, and then when we return, we'll take a look at other issues on the program today. Please stay.
But in a situation where you find that a look like
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that